Hello everybody and welcome back to Performance on Wheels. This is video 2 of 3 of our new Land Rover Defender 90S series, where our first video we talked about the size of the Defender, the exterior of the Defender, and that's actually where we're going to start this video off.
Yeah, we're going to pick up right where we left off with showing you a vehicle we did not show in the previous video, and it's going to tie in to what today's video is about, which is the interior and kind of the tech of the Defender. So first off, we're going to start by showing you the exterior of the new to market, not quite on market, Ford Bronco.
Standing next to the Ford Bronco, I can tell that it has the same stance as the Defender when it comes to height and size. I would say that it's pretty similar in size. However, it lacks in the, how would you say that, materials?
Yeah, so the exterior of the Bronco, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cool.
It looks pretty awesome.
So it has this compact cabin, it's got good proportions, and it looks pretty awesome that you can get these big meaty tires from the factory. I would say if I didn't have the opportunity to experience the Defender first, the Bronco would be pretty darn sweet. However,
the Bronco's a very cool car. Where the Bronco I felt lacked looking at it in person was the interior. However, that center display is huge. That thing's massive.
It is cool, and that gets into today's video, is kind of the fit and finish of the Defender as well as some of the tech it has to offer. Now again, if I did not see the Defender before I saw that Bronco,
I would have picked the Bronco.
I would have. However, being in the Defender, it does have that next level of refinement as well as the off-road capability feel to it.
Yeah, let's check out all that interior tech in the Defender and figure out why we picked it over the Bronco. When we first picked up the Land Rover Defender, the first thing that absolutely blew me away was the amount of standard options that this vehicle featured and how good the standard options were in today's day and age. Starting with things like lane keep assist, high quality 360 camera, the rain sensing wipers, auto high beams.
Yeah,
the list goes on.
You get into the tech stuff, you have navigation, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, auto high beams, speedometer or speed limit cameras.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff that is standard, and it's crazy to think that you can spend tens of thousands of dollars in additional options that this one doesn't have.
So this one is pretty basic, but we do have a few options on here, such as paint, wheels. We have different seats on the interior. Well, it's the S, so you get those different seats. You get a few other things. What are those exactly?
Yeah, so we wanted the panoramic moonroof. That was a must for my wife. That's an $1,800 upcharge.
It looks very good.
But you have to have an S for that to be an option for you to get.
And that's the same with the seats, isn't it?
So the seats, in order to have heated seats, you have to get the upgraded semi-powered seats, the 12-way semi-powered seats, which are the ones that this one that we're looking at has.
Okay.
It's like an $800 option, but that's what you have to get heated seats.
So the semi-powered, that means that the seat can go forward and backwards, but it doesn't go forward and backwards as in this way, but it doesn't go forward and backwards as in this way.
Correct. You have power lumbar, you have power recline, everything else about the seat is manual, and it'll move 12 ways.
All right, well, let's get into these options.
Cool.
In today's day and age, safety is priority. Safety is above everything when it comes to standard features, and the Defender does a pretty good job of that.
It does. It's actually why the previous Defender wasn't able to come to the United States, as it wasn't meeting the criteria of the National Highway Safety Institute or whatever.
And they flipped that around very greatly when it came to this one.
Yeah, so in this clip, guys, we're going to go through and actually try to show you some of these safety features at work.
So sorry if these clips don't look awesome. We tried our best, but we're trying to show some of the stuff. So yeah, let's go through it.
We're going to start with the rear traffic monitor. Then there's the clear exit monitor. Blind spot assist, and then the lane keep assist. We have the 3D surround camera, the 360 parking aid, emergency braking. It also has anti-lock braking system and emergency brake assist. And then there's all the other things that are pretty common in today's day and age, like the electronic traction control, dynamic stability control. It does have a fun feature to try to keep it on all four wheels, roll stability control, because it is a big box driving down the road, so that is important.
Also under standard features, which we're talking about these cameras right up here, we have the traffic sign recognition and adaptive speed limiter, LED headlights, auto high beam assist, and then the rain sensing front wipers and rear wiper.
The Defender we're looking at does have the standard headlights. If we did have the LED, again, $800 option. They will take your money. Those options can build up in a hurry. $800 for the fancier headlights that have the funner looking daytime running lights. But what we do have is we have the spray jet that cleans the washer off. That's part of the cold climate pack. $700 option. You get the heated wind screen as well as the heated steering wheel. Pretty cool stuff. Must have living in a cold climate.
Yeah, you brought up how these have, you need the cold climate pack. Isn't that because this is actually heated?
It is heated, yeah. It's a heated jet to clean off your headlights, which is actually, if you don't live in a place that squirts salt all over the road and has road grime, you don't appreciate this. But living here pretty much my entire life, your headlights get so coated in the wintertime that you truly can't see the light coming out of them.
I think it's pretty slick that they're heated. You don't hear that very often.
Absolutely. The other cool thing on the fancier versions, there's a reason specifically why I went with the cheaper, but we'll touch on that later. The fancier headlights that also have air suspension, they're auto leveling. So as that suspension adjusts, the headlights will also adjust so you're not blinding people.
That's smart. So all the exterior camera locations quickly, we have one right up here as well as the one right up there. Each side, each mirror is a camera. We also have a rear camera. This one has a little washer on it, probably because it's the biggest one that has to do with safety. This is a $400 option, but a must if you are buying a Defender. This is the rear view camera mirror.
One thing that is definitely a nice feature to have that does come standard on the S and above, but is I think it's about a $300 option if you were to get the base Defender, that is the interactive driver display. So what I'm talking about is this screen here. It's like a 12.3-inch screen and the entire thing is digital. The factory one just has a screen in the middle and analog gauges on the outside. So let's run through some of these features here to show you how personalized you can really make this. Right now we have the vehicle information on the left, the center dial that gives us our speed and tachometer, and then our media on the right. So we can go in here and change this to pretty much any way we want. So if I want to keep that center screen, I can do that, but I could change what is on the left and right of that. If I don't like that layout at all, I can simply go into my screen, go down to layout here. I can go to kind of a traditional layout, which is a 2-dial layout, and that'll give me my speedometer on the left, tachometer on the right, as well as the speed limit recognition will always come up there. In the event you don't have a speed limit sign for your camera to read, your navigation will take over with what it has on file for that area. If I don't like that and I really enjoy looking at maps, I can go to a full map view. And this could be handy if you're driving in an area that you're not familiar with and you're really concentrating on where you're going. Your entire navigation screen can be put on to your infotainment right in front of you. You can have navigation in 2 different spots, which is pretty wild. The personalization that is possible within the Defender is quite remarkable, and it doesn't really end there. The Pivi Pro, which is new to the Defender, that's the launch of this system on the Land Rover, Range Rover, Jaguar brand. This is the first model it's on. It can come up with profiles. You can set a profile for yourself, and in that it'll start doing things like remembering your way to work. If you're in an area that it knows you're familiar with, it'll automatically shut off the voice guidance and the navigation. So it gets to know you and it makes your driving experience better.
Not only that, but it like phone calls after work that you make to your husband, or significant other recently, it'll ask if you want to give them a call when you get off work, or you know, stuff like that.
If you're in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, it can recognize that you have a conference call coming in. It can do two-way calling. You can have numerous devices hooked up to the Pivi Pro.
Yeah, we actually have mine hooked up, yours hooked up, and your wife's hooked up.
Could play music on yours. I could be making a phone call. And that kind of leads into something, a point I wanted to make, which this is going to blow your mind. Are you ready?
Yeah.
There's something about the Land Rover that even has more technology than Tesla did when it was released. Do you know what that is?
I'm gonna go with screen. Screen.
You don't know. He doesn't know. So I'm going to tell you guys first. Cover your ears. So the Land Rover, when it first came out, it was the first vehicle to have two modems, two LTE modems integrated in it. That's a factory standard option.
Interesting.
So what that does is there's one modem that's specific to over-the-air updates of the vehicle.
Okay.
Currently, there's 14 different modules throughout the Defender that those over-the-air updates can get updates on. And it's not just software stuff. A lot of the driving features, there's key components throughout the Defender that can receive over-the-air updates, and what that does is it reduces time at the dealer. You can simply get a update while you're driving down the road, and the reason for having the two modems is it's not going to interrupt your music streaming.
That's what I was thinking.
Or your navigation.
Smart.
They work seamlessly together, so that's pretty cool. So it's an LTE system, it's 4G. So it's kind of the cream of the crop currently on the market. There's obviously, that's the next wave of that wireless connectivity, is machines talking to machines and
5G.
whatnot. 5G, what up? But this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool tech to have. It's a company called Qualcomm. It's an American company.
That's massive. Like, that's...
Yep.
All of our
Huge.
phones have Qualcomm Snapdragon processors.
Yep, and that's Snapdragon is the processor that is in the Land Rover as well. So this is
Qualcomm's very big.
The real deal. They used a smartphone for the mine. The Pivi Pro is based on a smartphone. We all know how to use a smartphone. So what I can say is getting into and using the Pivi Pro for the first time.
I loved it.
It's pretty much mindless.
Yeah.
It's like getting on your phone and navigating.
Yep.
There's cars like Fords that I still get confused getting in and trying to navigate
they're
around.
not awesome. I would assume the Mach-E is quite a bit better, but...
For sure, but I've always been confused getting into Fords. I understand the Uconnects on Mopar, but this is by far the easiest car that you can get in and just start using the options and features day one. Going into that screen just a little more, the Pivi Pro here, navigation, you can just simply touch on stuff. Everything is self-explanatory. You want to get back home, you go there. This is your home screen. It tells you your media, your connected device right in the middle, and you can just also hit that, and if you want to make something the main one that it's connected, it's very simple. If you want to go into your media, you hit that, you can go through your different channels, selecting your favorites, or back in the day when you'd have to hold a button down and that would save it. That's a whole new animal now, because all you have to do is hit these little stars, and that then becomes your pre-selected or your favorite media outputs.
What a lot of people also really like is the rewind feature that this has under satellite radio.
I personally like the driving score. You have to be driving a minimum of a mile for it to come in. It gives you a percentage, so you have a little family competition between husband and wife on what your driving score is. I've achieved 99%, so there is that. And then there is all the off-road stuff, the all-terrain response. Guys, Land Rover has been at this as a company for a very long time. This is a proven system. This is what makes the Land Rover amazing.
One of the things I really like about the Defender is the voice to talk. So it's actually super helpful. You can do things like adjust your fan speed, navigate, call, text. It is great. The voice in this car is fantastic. I mean, it doesn't sound cool. It's not like Google Assistant or Siri. It's just an animated voice. However, you can also choose things to say, like keywords. It comes factory with Hey Land Rover, but I changed it to Hey Defender. Hey Defender. Maximum fan speed. It works flawlessly. You just have to do it on time. So you say it, and then once it makes that chime, then you can start talking.
In addition to saying, hey Defender, you can also just simply push on the steering wheel, and that will prompt the voice guidance or your assistant in the Defender. Just looking at the steering wheel quick before we move on, you have your selector that controls your media screen, your volume dial, and then over here we have our cruise control. Hitting that will turn on our lane keep assist. The heated steering wheel, which is part of that cold climate pack, is there. And then your little limiter for speed.
You can't forget this right here, which is a button that you can choose whichever you want it to do. So you can set this button up, and it gives you a few different options on some ideas on what you can set up on whatever you want to do. If you want it to turn on the low tracks and launch, if you want to go to your phone, navigation, whatever, you can set that button up to do whatever you want. It is completely configurable. Land Rover's been doing this stuff for quite some time, but they do a very good job at it. It looks luxurious, and it just laid out pretty well. So standardly, you just have your dual climate on these two dials, but if you hit your fan, everything lights up over here and it changes. So as you can see, we have this autumn color now. This now turns into my fan speed. If I press this on this side, this now turns into my off-road mode. So I can switch, turn into my off-road mode, gives you a fun little decal up there, lets you know you're changing, takes a minute, locks diffs, does whatever it needs to do, and that's how you change all of that. This is my Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra with a pretty beefy case on it, and unfortunately, he just shut the car off, but that is where the wireless charger is located, and it charges my phone flawlessly. The main driver of this vehicle has an iPhone with a pop socket and a case on the back, and it still wirelessly charges. So it's a pretty powerful wireless charger, and it's in a very good spot.
Even if you get the 90, which is that smaller wheelbase, which means less storage in it, essentially, you have the same comfort with seating, which we'll get into in just a minute. You have immense amounts of storage in the Defender, and that starts right up with the dashboard. Not only is it fun to look at with the name and the sweet powder coating, but you have storage everywhere. You can lose a pair of sunglasses back here. You have charging ports, right? Underneath the center console, you have all this storage that you can build up. You have your cup holders, your wireless charger like Austin just talked about. You have the armrest. This is actually a feature that you could get. We don't have it. Is a cooler in there. So again, there's a lot of fun features that you can get for the Defender, just like the Wrangler and the Bronco, to make it a true companion that fits your lifestyle. But it's kind of fun to see it in the more standard form. This is an option that I absolutely love, and what that is the panoramic moonroof. Check out this monster and what it does for the vehicle when you open this up. $1,800. There's one robot in the factory that installs this. It puts a bead of glue around it, it turns around, picks up the piece of glass, and bada bing, bada boom.
One of the things that you say is that I find interesting is that you don't have the cooler as an option. However, if we open this up, this is completely watertight, and this is a material that you could just throw ice in and throw a couple pops in as is, and then take that ice and water out later. Getting into the Defender, the first thing you'll notice on the 90 is just how massive the door is. I mean, it's like a tank door. Absolutely massive. Getting into it is a bit of a challenge if you're older. As you can see, it has some serious ground clearance. So if you got one that's any higher, or if you lifted it, you would want those retracting door sills for sure. But once you're in it, it's very comfortable, and it does feel like you're driving a big truck. But one thing that we forgot to mention earlier when driving this is the lane keep assist. Driving around town, that lane keep assist, it jerks you around a lot more than you're comfortable with. I mean, it'll quick whip you across the road, and if you're driving behind it, you'd think this guy's drunk or something. Like, it whips you across the road. However, on a road trip, it's a really nice feature to have. But the other thing about the lane keep assist, if it's not enabled, then a lot of the other safety features are disabled, such as the cross traffic detection and stuff like that. So I just wanted to point that out there before we completely get in depth with the sitting position. Now that I'm sitting in here, like we said earlier, we got the manual seats, and there's a lot of adjustment. And the one thing I like about the adjustment is, even if I am in all the way back, there's still plenty of room for the people in the back seats, because our previous video showed this is almost the same length as a four-door Wrangler. The Defender also features a manual, in our case, telescoping steering wheel, up, down, in, out. It has quite a bit of movement in and out, unlike a lot of cars today. So it's pretty good. Very easy to get comfortable in the Defender. Let's hop in the back. Before I get into the back seats, I want to mention where I have the front seat. So the front seat is as far back as it'll go right now. This would be as if somebody was probably 6'4", 6'5" driving. It's a pretty big distance as far as the seat back in the front goes. So that's how my example will be. There's a small pulley on the back of the seat. You just hop in here. It takes a bit of an effort to get in with how high and narrow you have to get in. But once you are in, it's no big deal at all. Let me pull the seat back here. As you will notice that we have this hanger installed. So since we have this option, you'll get this from the factory. There's a little charge port in the back of the seats. You can buy a thing to hold a tablet, plug that in to prevent cord clutter. We also have 2 USB-Cs and 2 the cigarette charging ones in the back. We have 1 USB-C and 1 standard USB, as well as 1 standard the cigarette charging thing in the front. So you will have all of your devices charged in the Defender. Moving this back, I got tons of legroom. Like, there's no doubt about it. There's lots of legroom. Like most vehicles, the seat quality in the rear drops versus the front, but it's not bad because the leather is still plush and it's got a bit of comfort to it. So I could probably do a 2 to 3 hour road trip in the rear, and rotating I could easily do a 6 to 10. Some other things to mention about the back seats is the back seats sit up a little higher. Many cars actually sit lower, so your knees aren't nearly as comfortable as they are, but you actually sit up higher, so you have like stadium seating. Super cool for off-roading. You have a nice view of everything going on. And with that view of everything going on, I mean, the windows are amazing back here. I very often get car sick sitting in the back seats of cars for a long time. I think it just has to do with not having a lot of visibility. Where in the Defender, 90 that is, I have these safari windows, I have this moonroof, I have these back windows, and it's just amazing. In the 110, however, the safari windows are more for the third row passengers. They're back a bit further. So in the 90, they're almost more useful than they are in the 110.
In reading through forums on both Facebook and Defender forums on the interweb, there's a lot of talk about if the P300 motor is adequate. That'll be coming up in a future video, guys. We'll dive into that, on its performance, on the gas mileage, on overall drivability. Some things that are fun for this though is the battery placement. Obviously you have hookup points here, but the actual battery, if you follow me over to the passenger side, that's where we're gonna find that. There is a specific battery with all this technology in here. There's a specific battery for the Pivi Pro, which is a smaller battery. Obviously you don't have your big battery, but underneath the passenger seat in the United States, you're gonna find your main car battery. So you can hook up your battery maintainers, you can hook up your jumper cables under the hood, but if you need to do that replacement, it looks like your passenger seat's going to be coming out. So with Defender and Land Rover and Range Rover and Jaguar in general, there's all this talk about reliability. I have a few opinions on that. We'll get into this more in a later video, but here's my brief description on this. I asked my wife, what does reliability mean to you? And she's asking, why would we buy that? It's so unreliable. I said, what does reliability mean to you? If the car gets you from point A to point B safely, is that a reliable vehicle? And she said, well, yeah. I said, if there's a function within the vehicle that intermittently does not work, but the next time you turn on the vehicle, it works, is that a reliability issue to you? She said, no, that's just part of computers. And that's very true in the Land Rover. You have all these different computers, 15, 20, 25 different computers that are trying to NSYNC. There's going to be times when you boot up the car and those computers or functions within those computers are not working properly. Most of the time, a simple reset is going to get you back to 100% functionality.
On that reliability thing, and if something doesn't work when you turn it on and shut it off, we've experienced this one time in the Defender, actually on the road trip home. Our voice completely stopped working. The button talking completely stopped working. Shut off the car, turned it back on, it was working perfectly fine again. So we have experienced that already, and that will be an ongoing issue with Land Rovers, whether that's your voice, whether that's a heated seat, who knows. That might happen sometimes, and does that mean it is not reliable to you? Here's something I would like to bring up. So we were just looking as I was getting out of those back seats, and that's how we found the battery actually. And under the driver's seat in America is one of the computers that operates the car. So there's a little fun fact for you.
This is a question for the other Defender owners out there. I'm curious if everyone got one of these or if this was part of our, we had like $150 storage option as well as a interior compartment group. So I don't know if that sun visor comes with every Defender or if that's part of one of those goofy options we got. So guys, in the back here, I know that this tote was part of the storage option, and this thing, believe it or not, it's pretty awesome. Huge fan of Costco, and this is pretty gnarly for getting your groceries from outside into your house. Is this little storage tote. It fits perfectly in the back of the 90. Let's look at the back of the 90 a little bit more as far as room. So the only thing I can really give you for an example is I made about a $175 Costco trip, and I was able to fit it all back here. A couple cases of water, a week's worth of food. I was able to fit it back here without folding any seats down. Now, if you do have to fold the seats down, it is relatively easy. There's 3 sections. You can start with your middle section. You can put these down in any order that I'm showing you. You do have to put that headrest down first, and then it's just a simple push of a button and a little flick of the wrist, and bada bing, bada boom. You have more storage than you'll know what to do with in your 2-door Defender 90. So the Defender has this way about it that some of the competition does not. When I say the competition, I'm mainly referring to the Wrangler and the Bronco now, because those are the 2 that are gonna hit more of the price point. You do have to have a loaded Wrangler or a loaded Bronco to kind of start touching the starting price of the Defender. The other end of the spectrum is so out of reach for so many people, the G-Wagon, so I'm not gonna mention that too much. But with the Bronco as well as the Wrangler, they are off-road driven and they don't really fit the bill for being a fancy car, a luxurious car, a car you can take downtown and out to dinner. The Defender does that really well, and the way it does it really well is they provide you with these very fancy floor mats, carpeted, that go over your rubber floors. That's an option. I say that jokingly because those floor mats were comical to me when I took them out of the package when we bought this brand new. So all Defenders have rubber floors. They do have a carpeted floor mat option, which I think is quite comical. We also got like a WeatherTech, a rubber floor liner that does a really good job of coming up the sides for wintertime, for being out on trails, whatever the case may be. They did truly think of everything in my mind, whether this is an around town cruiser or going out and experiencing some pretty crazy capability that the Defender has.
Do you think, honestly, like the way that they describe this in the description is you could just hose this thing out, do you honestly think you could go to a power wash and just spray this interior out?
I think you could. It's a matter of if the computers will start back up after that.
Well, it was interesting because we just pulled that computer thing out. That was completely watertight and water sealed, that computer and that battery in those compartments. So technically there's nothing that would really be affected.
So that will actually lead into our next video where we're going to put this thing up on our lift and we're going to look at the underside. So it'll be neat to see how watertight this is, or if there's drain holes all over the place.
Yeah.
Because we do have that pretty substantial weighting, water weighting depth that you can get on the Defender. So let's get, make sure you subscribe and tune into the next video where we look at more of the technical side, some of the assembly of the Defender, and get to know that a little more.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in to video 2 of 2 on our newly purchased Land Rover Defender 90.
A lot of videos to come. Our next video that you can check from us is gonna be, again, about the technical stuff, having it up on the lift, looking underneath, as well as just some fun facts.
And be sure to comment down below some videos, ideas for after that video. And then we also have a video series coming up after that of a Corvette C5 versus the CTS-V.
Just like a Defender.
It's quite similar.